Today is Sunday, November 20th, 2016, and this is the beginning of an interview with
Leonard Lundy.
Leonard Lundy at the VFW Veterans Village in Fort McCoy, Florida. My name is Justin Perkins, and I will be the interviewer. Also present is
Sam Kwiatkowski,
who will operate the video. Could you tell us your first full name and address?
Leonard J. Lundy, Fort McCoy, Retirement Village, VFW Retirement Village.
Where and when were you born?
I was born in Florence, South Carolina, November the 4th, 1944.
And how old are you today?
73, 72 or 3, I don't know.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My mother worked in a box factory, and her name was Leota. My dad is Albert Lundy, and he was worked at the Cape as an inspector on rockets.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
Going to school.
When did you enter the service?
Sometime in 98, or 68, I mean.
Which branch of the service did you serve?
Army. My dad was in the Army, my son's in the Army, and myself went to the Army.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
What was your rank and where did you serve?
I was SP 5 and I served in Germany.
Why did you choose that specific branch of the military?
They offered me a lot more schooling than any of the other branches.
Can you describe basic training?
Yeah, fun. I was from Florida and I was a swamp boy, so heck, it was like playing for me.
Where did you receive your basic training?
Was in South Carolina.
What weapons did you qualify on during basic training?
During basic training, regular rifle, which would have been the M14.
Did you receive any special training?
Oh yeah, I went to every school that I was allowed to go to. I went to computer school, and I went to the dial center office equipment school, and I ended up going overseas with the dial center office equipment repairman.
What qualification level did you achieve?
Well, I was run my own telephone exchange. I worked switchboards. I run teletypes, microwave systems, TAC alert systems. Had all that to take care of overseas.
How did you adapt to military life?
I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Were you married or single?
Single. Told every girl I run into I'd marry her.
What do you recall about physical regimen?
What?
the physical regimen. What do you recall about it?
About it, what I had to do, or
Mm-hmm.
heck, I had enough physical regimen, digging holes and running lines. And I didn't have a regular regimen of physical training.
The barracks?
I didn't have a barracks. I had a off-post room and just above the MP station. And me and the MPs go out all the time.
The food?
I couldn't tell you too much about the food I didn't eat around the military base.
And the social life?
Constant.
What was your military specialty?
Was the Dow Center Office Equipment Repairman. I took care of telephone exchange. I had a civilian that I had working for me and taking care of telephones for 3 different concerns. I had about 170 some telephones systems that I was taking care of.
Did you serve during a war?
Vietnam.
Were you part of specific operations?
No. Well, I had a tank coordinates plant that I had to take care of, which we supplied all the engines and for all the tanks, which was overseas. So some of the tank engines that we built would go to Vietnam. Telephones, some of them I took out of France, and some of them went to Vietnam. And when de Gaulle run us out of France, I went and picked up a bunch of the phones. And we moved them and sent them all over the cotton-picking world.
What are some memories of going overseas?
Going out and partying.
How did you travel there?
They flew me there, and I flew home. I missed my first flight and had to get another one. My girlfriend, she didn't want me to leave. We messed around, missed the flight.
Were you issued special equipment?
Well, I was issued grenades for my bays, gasoline, my rifle, 1,200 rounds of ammunition, and they had to stay locked up in separate containers. And that was to blow up the telephone communication if we got overrun by the Russians, France, or anybody else. So that was all that special equipment we had. That was it.
How did you stay in contact with family back home?
I'd call them on the telephone. I'd use the operators in the evening and go and call everybody.
What did you do for recreation when you were off duty?
Well, mainly I traveled. I had a girlfriend that spoke 7 different languages, and we traveled all over Spain, England, France, Belgium, Sweden, all the surrounding countries. And we'd get through a lot of the checkpoints and all that I couldn't even go in.
Did you get enough sleep?
Did I get enough sleep? I could sleep as long or as all as I wanted.
Where were you when the war ended?
Well, I was still I just got out of service. The war still hadn't ended. I went in when it was going on, and I got out before it was over. I spent 3 years in the service.
What kind of friendships did you form while serving?
Oh, bunch. I had all kinds of friends where I went through basic training, went through training, and ended up losing contact with a lot of the guys that I run with because they went to the computer school, and I dropped out of it. I said, heck, this is driving me crazy. I got to get out of here.
Did you admire the people you served with?
Yeah, it was all of us were special services. We supplied all the services that they needed to run an outfit.
How long were you overseas?
Overseas, I was overseas 2 years. I was in the States going to school for a year and 4 months in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey.
How did you return home?
They picked my car up at the base and I drove it home. They discharged me there in New York.
When did you return home?
And that was sometime in '98. I don't know exactly when.
Were you in combat?
No.
What action did you witness?
What action? None.
Were you ever under enemy fire?
No. I had an old sergeant tell me when I went in and getting out of school, and they asked you where you want to go, and he told me to tell them I want to go to Vietnam and kill all the gooks, and I told them that, and they wouldn't send me there.
Were you ever wounded?
No.
What were your duties?
My duties was to supplying all the telephones to all these different concerns and airfields and train stations and all. I supplied and maintained all their phone systems. If I had a cable go bad, I had to put a new cable in. There wasn't nobody else there to do that kind of work. I'd get me some people to run the cable, and then I'd hook up both ends.
Did you admire your commanding officer?
I don't even know who he was. I never seen him. He was my commanding officer. Was in Munich, and I was in Schwäbisch Gmünd, and I seen him twice in 2 years.
What are your most memorable experiences?
Just being in the service, serving my country, and we were admired over there. But when we got home, we weren't. We were baby killers, and they didn't even recognize us to be soldiers that come back from a war at all. We were down to quite a bit. Seems like we stay that way.
How were you received by your family?
My family was glad to see me come back.
What about your community?
Well, I didn't have a whole lot to do with the community at that time. I lost contact with everything and everybody.
How did you adjust to civilian life?
Fine, I went right to work. I wasn't out of work a week. I had me a job. I had a choice between the power company and the telephone company. And I chose the power company, thank the good Lord.
What have you done since leaving the military?
I worked in the power industry, building power lines, and well, I started out as just a grunt. That's a grunt is a person just starting. You run from that right on up. I got into inspecting the lines, then I got into supervision as running a crew, a foreman, and then I retired when we got bought out, and I got into a couple of more companies, and I had one that I run, and had just worked all over it up until I was 70 years old. I finally quit.
Who were your best friends?
And I don't have any best friends. I just had friends.
Did any siblings serve in the military?
Yes, my son. He was in Desert Storm. He was in the 82nd Airborne.
Did you have any siblings?
Just my son,
What were their names?
James, and my daughter would be Tina.
Has your military service impacted your feelings about war?
No, well, a lot of it we get into wars that we can't win. I've seen a lot of that. But we go to war, and it escalates and escalates, and we get to a point there we can't. There's no way we can win.
How did your wartime experiences affect your life?
Not much on my life, if any.
Did you have post-traumatic stress, or do you know someone who did?
No.
What effect did serving in the military have on your faith or spiritually?
None.
Would you want your son or daughter to enter the military?
They did. My daughter was married to a guy in the service, and they traveled to Korea and all over. And my son, he, like I said, was in the 82nd Airborne, jumped over the Euphrates River during Desert Storm, and held them back across the river so they wouldn't cross with all their tanks.
Have you remained in contact with or reunited with fellow veterans?
No.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
Just this one.
What are some life lessons you learned in the military?
Just how to run a telephone exchange and deal with people. I had to deal with people on a daily basis as far as running lines and all. And they'd give me a work order, and I'd go out and fix what I could fix and what I could do. I'd get an order that the general was coming in on his train, and then I had to get the German telephone company to run me a line to the station so we could us have a secure line for him.
What lessons would you pass on to today's generation?
Go and give it all you got. Try to learn as much as you can.
Is there anything I forgot to ask about your military experience?
No. You done a pretty good job.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Any stories you remember or anything?
Oh, well, I can't tell a lot of them.
All right. Thank you so much.
All righty.